Excited to get going here today. Kind of our first week here with just kind of a normal progression through the week. So Friday in our world, getting ready for obviously red area and some other situational plays that come up. So pushing through meetings this morning. We're excited to just get out in the field and have a good day. I think the guys have worked hard this week, and obviously, the Chargers are a huge challenge for us on all three phases. They really present a lot of problems. So we're just trying to learn this team as quickly as possible and understand what they do well and, who their great players are. And certainly in each phase of the game, it changes, and the red area would be a big one for a lot of their better players. So we've got to have a good day, got to go practice, and we're just kind of getting in mode, which is great. We just love to have the routine. We love to have just the normalcy of meetings and practice and film and meetings and practice and just get going. So it's exciting. I'm excited to be home. I'm excited to get into our stadium. I'm excited to feel the fans, feel the energy. We're going to need it, when you face a great offense and you have that kind of, kind of just encouragement and energy and excitement from our home fans just helps us, and so we're looking forward to that here on Sunday. So.
I know you were looking for the team to do a better job of putting losses behind them than they did last year. I know you said earlier in the week you liked the energy and you liked the way everyone was preparing, but now that you've gotten to the last point, to Friday,
Sure.
How have you seen the team respond to the loss?
Yeah, I think big picture, we'll obviously, see how this weekend goes. But I mean, really, in the moment right now, we're totally on the Chargers. Everybody's really focused right now, which is great. We're going to need it. So I don't feel any of that right now at all.
The limited 2019 tape of the Chargers. How much do you go back to the playoff loss they had last year? Obviously, similar coaching DNA and schematic DNA to what New England does. Is there anything you can pull from what they did this year, or the roster's just too different?
I think, there's probably a combination of all of it, plus it's outside, it's in the middle of the winter, things change as far as offense and things like that. So those are actually factors, those come into play when you get into some of those games. And I think where both of those teams were at the end of the year and how they had built through the season is just different a little bit. We're looking at all the tape though. We're going to check all of it from, last year, some really good games out there for us to look at, early in the season and then late too. But you try to analyze as much as you can, understand that, as a coach, you don't want to try to just dig too deep to find nothing, from that aspect of it. You want to make sure the information you're giving the players is good. It's good, solid information that we can play through and react off of. There's still an element of the early part of the season, the unknown part of that. Unfortunately, I was through that. Forgot what year it was, but it was like the third game of the year, and Miami showed up in Wildcat. And no one had seen it, but they had been working on it all through the spring. So it came out of nowhere. So early in the year, you're just kind of just making sure that fundamentally you're in the right place from that standpoint on all three phases.
How much different are the coaching points for you? You mentioned doing the red zone work every week. You have a day just sort of set aside for it. How much different are the coaching points for you on those days?
They're all unique. Early downs, third downs, red area, 2 minute. As we break the game down, there's going to be different aspects of it that are really important that we understand, in all three phases. Sometimes things carry over. There's concepts, that you're trying to identify from your opponent, and when you can bridge the gap between those and, move one concept to another concept based on situation, that helps you from a learning standpoint. But all of those phases are different, and they're all really critically important, obviously. So, red area being one of the most important ones.
Coach Taylor Decker had a really tough day. What do you do when a player, do you help him mentally, fundamentals, whatever, just to get him, back on his feet under him for the next game?
I think for, team had a tough day. We didn't play the way we wanted to, but, we just move forward. That's what's great about the game. Everybody moves forward. And the biggest thing for all of the players and the coaches and all of it is just, let's learn. Let's find out what we did not so well. Let's try to improve it. Again, a lot of it's going to go back to fundamentals, techniques, building that foundation of things that you need to go to in those situations, and just pushing back through. And the best thing for us, honestly, in all of those situations, is just going back out and practicing. And that's where the difference makes. You can sit in the meetings, you can watch the tape, you can do all that, but when we go out and we practice, that's where we build our confidence back up, that that we're going to be in good position to handle those situations when they come back up. And that's really the best way to focus on that.
Speaking of that, and
I'll come back to you in a second. It's okay. Go ahead.
It's kind of what Kyle said too. I'm sorry, Dave. Just from a head coaching perspective, with what happened on Sunday, knowing how big this game is on Sunday and a couple big ones after that, is there an extra sense of anxiety from you to wonder kind of how your team is going to bounce back after that?
Yeah. No. Every game, we got 16 of them. They're all high anxiety games. They're all critically important. So we just, it's 1 week season. So that's how you have to approach it. Again, I think if you, if you take extra undue stress or whatever external pressure and put it on top of something that's already very much a pressure situation, you go outside of the moment and you just have to stay in that moment, because it's really the only way that anybody in any profession, in any job, in any stressful situation can make good, clean decisions, is to execute and stay in the moment itself. And that's really, it's the same approach we take. We study that. We talk with a lot of different organizations, a lot of different, teams or military or whatever it may be that have to handle those situations, and staying within the moment is usually the best way to do that, and not putting anything else on top of it. There's enough pressure within the moment itself, to execute through.
We talked about the two tight ends before, your two tight end offense, but you guys were incredibly efficient with it this past game. I think Stafford he didn't miss a pass in 200 yards or something like that, at least passing. Can you just explain why, beyond personnel, why that is so effective for you guys?
Well, I mean, just in general, like we talked a little bit about it with football and the game right now. I think some of those positions, the tight ends being one of them, where the players are really caught in between run and pass, let's just say, and you're trying to identify as a defense, how do I defend this? Do I defend it this way? Do I defend it that way? And really try to put the other team in a bind from that standpoint. And a lot of times you may catch a team that simplifies. You may catch a team that becomes more aggressive. You may be able to catch a team that becomes a little bit more passive. And I think you can just try to find tendencies and patterns in there to exploit those situations. There's a lot of teams that are really comfortable against that stuff, and they do a good job of understanding maybe the hybrid type of player or position in general that they have to defend against. So I think it goes from, the tight end position, which we talked a lot about, but also within position groups, there may be different types of players within the wide receiver group, within the running back group, within the skill positions all the way across the board on offense that might have just a little bit different skill sets and things that you can benefit from. Whereas, the opponent may lump them into the same category, and you can kind of branch off just a little bit in a different way.
Are more efficient against, that, or whatever it is. Is it based on the scheme they play, the personnel they have? Is there something, as you game plan?
Yeah, it's probably different based on who it is. Some teams are going to scheme it. Some teams are going to just rely on their personnel because they have great personnel, and they can do what they do. So it's all more the comfort level of the opponent and how they feel best they can handle it. But it's just, in general, it's just things that you're looking for when you're trying to game plan from that sort of mentality. You're just trying to figure out, hey, how do we get an advantage?
The third down offense hasn't been up to where you'd like it since you've been here, really, and week one was kind of a continuation of that. What do you guys need to do to get better at those gotta have it plays, as you call them?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. Obviously, we got to coach them better. It's always going to be first and foremost. We got to make sure we're in good plays. We got to make sure we have good, sound, fundamental execution or executable things on the field that they can do. And I think a lot of those situations, it's kind of like everything. The more one group can play together from a consistent standpoint over a longer period of time, you just learn some nuances about, the guys on the field. So whether it's the offensive line or whether it's the skill players, the quarterback, whatever it is in those situations, those gotta have it's or third downs or whatever it is, where things are going to be multiple, things are going to be different. There's going to be a little bit different each single week. The more you guys are always on the same page, or the players are always kind of just working together. It's the same guy. There's a trust level that builds up. There's a rapport, or just sometimes on the field, there's body language. Guys speak to each other in different ways. There's a lot of nonverbal communication that says, hey, I'm open, I'm not open, or throw it here, or put it there, or this is the protection, or we got to pick this up. And it's like anything. The more reps you can get at that stuff together, then, usually you get better as you go through.
The key to unlocking good offense is to be able to be consistent on those third down, sustained drives.
I mean, being consistent is obviously the biggest thing. It's consistency and improvement, and I think part of the thing that we're always trying to preach, though, is if there is a change or if there is something that is different, everybody else who steps in or everybody in those situations they have to be consistent. And in order to do that with maybe somebody that has to step in and take a role, or you see something different, is that improvement, just seeing that improvement from 1 week to the next, and then that builds that trust and then that consistency from there.
Target number on third down that you're looking for, like an average yards to go or whatever.
Kind of like a range, you mean, that's like efficient? Yeah, I mean, certainly, obviously, the closer you can get, the more your efficiency will go up. It's funny, sometimes teams, though, that are, when you track that stuff, they may be less efficient on like a 1 to 2, and then more efficient on like 3rd and 5, and then less efficient on 3rd and longer. I've played teams that have been extremely efficient on like 3rd and 10, which doesn't make any sense, but that's where they're really good at, you know? So you try to look at all those numbers, but general theory would be the closer you can get to the first down marker, you know, the higher percentage chance you have to convert it. So kind of a mentality of trying to stay on track and making sure that 1st and 2nd down are good so that you set up a good 3rd down situation.
That's sort of the same on 4th down too, like the coach at Army, he's got that, you know, just how you plan, when to go in what situations and all that. You do the same thing for like 4th and 1, 4th and 2.
Yeah, what was the middle part of the question? I missed it, I'm sorry.
Well, the coach at the university, at Army's got that, you know, how he goes for it on 4th down,
Sure.
and there's only 30 based on down and distance. Do you have that same, maybe not that extreme, but the same
Right.
thing for 4th?
A little bit different team kind of situation there where they're trying to grind out the game and play like 5 series total there in the game. So, 4th and 1 situations are interesting. You know, it depends on where they come up. Field position goes into a lot of it. Personnel goes into a lot of it. Depends on what kind of game it is. You know, you're trying to, in those sort of, call them turnover downs, right? You're trying to really assess all 3 phases and what's the benefit of all 3 phases at that time. And that'll change from early in the game to late in the game, certainly, in those deals. And sometimes it changes within the game. You may have a plan going in, and it may have to be something totally different when you get into the game and find out either this is really working, this is not working, this didn't look good, and then try to adjust before you get back to those situations. But look at it as like it's a turnover down. So when you make those decisions, all 3 phases really need to come into account. Does that make sense? Okay.
Thank you, man.
Okay. Yep.